feet and a light unto my path. Unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path.
Welcome to SearchLight, a survey through Scripture with Pastor Jon Courson. It is our desire to bring you a systematic study of the entire Bible, chapter by chapter, book by book.
It is true that the church is to be a hospital where people who are hurting can come and be touched by the great physician Jesus Christ. Where people who are hurting can come and be healed in the loving atmosphere of the church family. Yeah, the church needs to be a hospital for hurting people. It's also true that the church needs to be a school where we can study to show ourselves approved unto God, workmen that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Sure, absolutely. The church needs to be a school and a hospital. And the church should also be a gymnasium. We are told to exercise ourselves unto godliness. We are told by the Apostle Paul to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. The church is to be a gymnasium where godliness is exercised, where faith is being worked out. It is to be a hospital where hurting people are helped and healed. It is to be a school where we are instructed in righteous living. And we could make many, many other analogies, and there are all sorts of things that the church gets to be. But, gang, we must never forget that perhaps most importantly, we are a travel agency. We are a travel agency, getting people booked in to the eternal excursion to heaven. That is, people have got to be saved. I mean, what does it profit if we gain the whole world, if we work out our salvation and have our hurts healed and study and know theology thoroughly, but the people around us are lost and doomed and damned eternally? We have a wonderful commission that the Lord has given to us to go into all the world, preach the gospel, share the good news with people. Now, in chapter 21 and 22, here is a travel brochure that you can become familiar with, that I need to have a real grasp on. The travel brochure gives us sort of a sneak preview of coming attractions. It lets us know where we are headed to. It lets us understand something about our eternal destiny, that ultimate destination, heaven. We read in chapter 21, verse 1, in talking about our eternal destiny, we see here a brand new world being talked about. And then as we go through chapter 21 and come to verse 9, we'll see a bright new city. First of all, a brand new world. I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Well, why would there need to be a new heaven? I mean, I could see the need for a new earth. The place has been polluted and the place has been destroyed. But what about heaven? Well, Job chapter 15, verse 15, we read this: Yea, the heavens are not clean in his sight. What does that mean? The heavens are not clean in his sight. Hey, heaven has been stunk up too. What do you mean? Because Satan, the polluter, The devil, the enemy, he has access to heaven. We talked about that in chapter 12. He doesn't live in heaven, but he has access to heaven. The enemy has caused there to be a stench in heaven which requires a new heaven, just like it requires a new earth. And that's why Isaiah chapter 65 verse 17 says, I will create a new heaven and a new earth, and the former things shall be what? Remembered no more. In this brand new world, new creation, new capital, verse 2, I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride, adorned for her husband. Not only is there new creation, new capital, but verse 3, we now have a new communion. I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. And God, verse 4, shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. There shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. For the former things are what? Passed away. Again, Isaiah 65:17. New creation, new capital. We'll talk about that momentarily, the New Jerusalem. New communion. What do you mean, new communion? Listen, God says, I'm going to be dwelling with you. The presence of God. In our present communion, we come to the table, don't we? And we taste of the bread, and we drink of the cup, and we really break through and desire to have communion with God. But Paul was right when he said, hey, we see through a glass what? Darkly. In this day, the new communion, we are going to see the visible, tangible glory of God. It's not going to be fuzzy. It's not going to be breaking through and trying to get a grasp or a grip on. It's going to be reality. It's not going to be your vision, which may be a little different than my vision, which may be a bit different than this brother or that sister. We're all going to be in his presence. The presence of God, new communion, and the absence of grief. Isn't that grand? I mean, the presence of God and the absence of grief. Every tear wiped away. No more sadness, no more sorrow, no more death. There's going to be absolutely no grief in that day. None. Zero. Well, you say, but John, in this new heaven and new earth, being with the Lord, yes, having this communion sounds wonderful to me, the presence of God, but I'll tell you, if my daughter isn't there, if my dad isn't present, if my husband or my son, if they're not in heaven, then even though it's going to be grand being in the place where we're in his presence, I'm going to be weeping. Not just for a moment or two, but for eternity. Listen, the former things shall come to mind no more. What does that mean? It means that when you get to heaven, when I get to heaven, we will not have memory of those who aren't there. You will not live in eternity missing your mother or your son or your spouse who are not Christians, who didn't choose to enter in, to take advantage of the invitation to be a part of heaven. They will come to mind no more. You will not say, oh, this is great, but there are no buts in heaven. None. Oh, this is wonderful, however, no. The former things come to mind no more. Well, that raises a question, some may say. If that's true, are we going to know each other? The ones that are there, are we going to know each other in heaven? And the answer that I've shared over the years still holds today. You're not going to be stupider in heaven than you are on earth. If you know each other here, then you're going to know each other when we're all there, you see. Of that you can be certain. You can be sure. You're not going to be... In fact, I suggest to you that really, are we going to know each other in heaven? I say we're not going to know each other until heaven. Because there are people that may bug you that you may say, oh man, I don't want to spend eternity with her. I don't want him to be, in the next mansion, if you would. I don't have... Oh, come on. But you know what? When we get to heaven, we are going to find ourselves amazed at, impressed with, blown away by the people that irritated us, bugged us, got on our nerves. You see, there's going to be a glorious, wonderful, complete, total transformation of every Christian. For when we see Him, we shall all be what? Like Him. The things that irritate you now about your spouse or about the person you're sitting next to or whoever it might be, those things are eradicated. They're gone, you see. Will we know each other in heaven? Yes, but we're going to know no man, as Paul says, after the flesh. We're going to know no man after the flesh. Whole different thing is happening in heaven. Of that, I'm thankful. Now, I know that we're going to know each other in heaven if people ask you that, because Matthew chapter 17, Mount of Transfiguration, Jesus was shining. Remember the story? He was up on the mountain, probably Mount Hermon, and he was glowing. And Peter, James, and John were with him. And Peter says, whoa, Lord, it's good for us to be here. Look at you. Wow, you're glowing. And next to you is Elijah and Moses here. He's here too. Let's build 3 tabernacles or 3 monuments. One for you, Jesus, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. Now, as you read the story, there were no formal introductions. Jesus didn't say, Peter, this here is Elijah. Elijah, Peter, Peter, Elijah. This here is Moses. Moses, Peter, Peter, Moses. How you do? Nice to meet you. There was none of that. There was no... Immediately, Peter recognized that's Moses and that's Elijah, which means that you're not only going to know each other in heaven, but you're going to know the people that you haven't yet met. There's going to be no need for name tags. Hello, my name is Mo. No name tags whatsoever. And it's going to be neat because you won't say, now what was her name again? What's his name? You're going to know, you see, completely. And yet you'll know no man after the flesh. Oh, a happy day that will be, folks. Former things, though, which would include those that are not in heaven, which includes the sins that we have done or others have done to us, those kinds of things come to mind no more, you see. So there's a new communion. Yeah, the presence of God and the absence of grief. There is also, I love this, a new community in this brand new world, a new creation, a new capital, a new communion, a new community. Listen, verse 5. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said, Write, for these words are faithful and true. Why would he say write? These words are faithful and true. Because what he's about to share sounds too good to be true. It's wonderful what it's going to be. This whole new heaven and new earth that's around the bend for you and for me. The new community. What about this new community? Verse 6. He said unto me, It is what? Done. Not it is finished, the cry of Christ on the cross. This is, it is done. It is the statement of a carpenter who has completed his work. What work? Check it out. I mean, I look at the world around me, and I'm impressed by so much of what I see in nature. But I'll tell you this. You've heard me share it before, that God made all of this. The Lord Himself, Christ, who made all things, made all this in 6 days. 2,000 years ago, He said, I go to what? Prepare a place for you. If He made all this in 6 days, can you imagine what He could do in 2,000 years? Can you imagine what it must be like? In fact, I can't. But here's what we do know. The carpenter, the creator, the Christ, who makes it, says, it is done. It's done. It's done, not it's almost there. Not, hey, hang with me. We'll get it complete someday. But rather, it is done. It is a spectacular place, you see. It is a satisfying place, this new community. How so? He says, I will give, verse 6, unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. It's satisfying in three ways. First of all, resources. Water is essential to any community. If there's no water, you can't build a community. You can't establish a city. You guys know that. So right away in this new community, it's done, and there is water flowing freely. Glorious. Secondly, notice this. Not only is it a satisfying place because of resources, but secondly, it's a satisfying place because of responsibilities. Verse 7. He that overcometh shall inherit all things. Now mark this. He that overcomes, he that's in this new heaven and new earth, that's me, that's you, is going to inherit all things. The idea of inheritance is not simply things to admire, but it's things to administrate. What do you mean? It's not just having a bunch of, Mazda Miatas and Lear jets and swimming pools and all that stuff. To inherit all things, the idea is a father who's sharing the company with his son, you see. Inherit all things means, yes, all things are ours to enjoy. All of creation. In eternity, we are going to have not just stuff to acquire, but we are going to have things to do. Administrative responsibilities. Well, I'm not into that. Listen, I want to talk to you momentarily about this. The things that you really, really, really wish that you could do, but can't. The things that are built, some of you guys are just masters at mechanics, and you just get off on and find total satisfaction in tearing down an engine and rebuilding it. Others of you are authors or artists or musicians or volleyball players. And you say, man, playing on the beach, beach volleyball just absolutely thrills me. But I can't do it. I live in Medford and I got to work at Food for Less. I got these responsibilities but I wish I could just play guitar. Oh wow, I wish I could just do that remodeling let me tell you something. Those desires that are in you that are frustrated presently because of the difficulty of life. Why is life difficult? Because of the curse. The curse. Because of the curse, man shall work by the what? Sweat of his brow. This world is not an easy place. God told us that from the very get-go. But those desires that are in you, what would you do? What would you choose to do if you could do anything with your time? What would you choose to do? I believe that is the thing that you will do or be involved in eternally. I do not believe that God put desires in you or skills that He gave to you that have not yet been developed because of just life. He didn't say, I embedded you, I built you with those things embedded in you, but, oh well, now that you're in heaven, forget all that. I suggest to you that those things that you really just are fascinated with, intrigued by, wish that you could be more given to, that you will get to do those things in eternity. Listen, life is short. And some of you feel like, I just missed it. I've got to do this, and I wish I could do that. This life is so short. Don't worry about it. Because the time is coming when you are going to be administrating for the Lord. In what area? In the area that intrigues you, fascinates you, tickles you. In the area that you go, man, that's cool. If you hate crunching numbers, He's not going to say, here's a calculator. Start adding up how much gold is on these streets and crunch the number. He's not going to do that. He built you in a certain way. Some guys love calculators. Let them do it. I mean, they'll just go, wow, great. 18 times 33, and they'll just be, tripped out, and that's wonderful. Because that's the way God built them, you see. But we are going to inherit all things. Again, the idea of inheritance is not accumulation, it's administration. Satisfying. You're going to say, I'm so satisfied. This is a satisfying place. It's done. I don't have to keep remodeling or patching it up. And there's resources. There's water is free, satiating, and there's responsibilities. I get to be involved in the company business and in the Father's thing, the inheritance, you see. Glorious. So resources, responsibilities, and finally relationships. Verse 7 goes on to say, here's why it's such a satisfying place. I will be his God, and he shall be my son. I love that. See, John 3:16 says what? For God so loved the world that he gave us his son. Luke 11:13 says that if we being evil give good gifts to our kids, how much more will he give the Holy Spirit to them who what? Ask. So he gave us his son. He gives us his Spirit. Wonderful. But in this day, in the new heaven, he gives us himself. I will be his God, and he shall be my son.
If you would like to have this complete teaching, you may order one from our website at joncourson.com. You may also call us toll-free at 888-544-4858 and ask for the teaching from today's date. Again, that ordering number is 888-544-4858. You will also find on our website a variety of Pastor Jon's books, teaching packets, MP3 CDs, and other Bible study resources. Again, the address of the website is joncourson.com. SearchLight is a listener-supported ministry. We appreciate your prayers and support. May the Lord richly bless you.